CEE Brown in your face.
Have you heard of Everything at Once?
Do you know about Everything at Once?
It's internationally known.
Aliens listen to it.
It's the best.
This ain't a regular podcast or daily news, so stay in tune. It's Everything at Once, the place for you. Various interviews of different perspectives from the eerie collective to deliver a message, yeah. Whether a rapper or an event planner, baller, photographer, poet, or freestyle dancer, it's here. Forget the politics that's on the FM. Tony and Dave, you already know where to catch them. So much going on in the EPA.
Incredible content.
Everything at Once will keep you up to date.
Amazing guests.
What you doing? Come through and hang with Tony and Dave.
Community driven.
Bringing everything at once from around the way. Everything at once from around the way. Hey.
Please listen. We love you. Everything at Once.
Everything at Once.
We are so excited to bring another amazing episode of Everything at Once to you today, folks. We want to start off this broadcast with a special thanks to our Patreon producers, Brian G, Josh W, Ian D, Nick G, and Sadie M.
Patreon is an awesome way to support the show and say thanks. You can become a Patreon supporter by clicking the link below and choosing to be an intern, assistant, or producer level supporter.
That's right. For the low cost of $5, you can become an intern level supporter. We also want to shout out all the local businesses that sponsored this episode. These businesses get the Everything at Once stamp of approval and are critical members of the Everything at Once community. We couldn't do it without them. We would first like to thank AFB Services. Much like this show, they do a little bit of everything at once.
AFB Services specializes in landscape and property maintenance needs. This means they can take care of all your lawn care needs. Everything from reseeding yards, flower bed clean out, tree work, edging, and other miscellaneous maintenance needs.
Check out their website at afbservicesllc.com or give Aaron a call at 814-528-7464.
Give them a call. We would also like to thank friends of the show, Cauldron and Thorne. Cauldron and Thorne is the world's largest witchcraft store, offering a conglomerate of crystals, books, ceremonial supplies, incense, herbs, and oracle and tarot cards and self-care items.
It's a real grocery store for the soul, located just west of the Colony Plaza on West 8th Street. Cauldron and Thorne is open 7 days a week or 24 hours online at cauldronandthorne.com.
We would like to welcome our second new sponsor, Solid State Construction. Solid State takes pride in all home remodeling projects.
That's correct, Dave. Solid State specializes in bathroom remodeling, kitchen renovations, window and door installations, custom design work, and more, including painting, flooring, drywall, siding, and decks. Get a free quote today by calling Nick at 814-397-7854. Solid people, solid product, Solid State Construction. And we also want to thank our latest sponsor, Tommy's Automotive. Tommy's Automotive can take care of everything car related. Tommy's Automotive is a reliable, trustworthy service provider.
That's right. Tommy's Automotive can take care of brakes, exhaust, fluid changes, spark plugs, and all other maintenance needs.
Tommy's Automotive also does fluid film undercoating. Book your appointment today. Call Tommy at 814-384-8088. Fresh out of the studio and into Everything at Once Studios, Tyler Smilo of Smilo The Ghost.
He is an incredible artist with an incredible story and a great personal friend of ours, and he came by today to talk about this awesome new album they're recording that couldn't have been possible without you wonderful people out there.
Some might even say that this podcast may never have existed without the old Sink Swimmer Fly podcast hosted by Tyler Smilo and yours truly. So we owe him a great debt of gratitude. We're so happy he came to hang out with us, even though he's way more famous than either of us ever will be or ever can be, maybe. Well, the sky's the limit. We're going for it here.
We're keeping the fingers crossed, but as of right now, there's a certain trajectory that Tyler Smilo and The Ghost are on, and it's looking pretty promising, and we're very fortunate to have him on today.
We're super excited about it. We hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as we did. Welcome to the Everything at Once Studios, Tyler Smilo.
Hey,
Yeah.
welcome.
Fresh out of Suma recording studio.
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
We're happy to have you here. It's good to have you back in the crib, hanging out and chilling.
I've been excited. I've been excited about this all week.
Fuck yeah. It's been a while since you've been podcasting.
Can I turn my headphones down a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's been a while, dude. There's been a lot of cool stuff going on, too. And I know we talked about doing more podcasts together, but we figured wait till something cool's going on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been wanting to get you back in here too, just to get you back over here and be kicking it for a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I just love to see how, like, in the last several months, like, I'm like, there's Tony on TikTok, there's Tony on Instagram, there's Tony on Facebook. Every time I turn my phone on, it's like, Tony's got some shit cooking up.
Dude, we're trying to stay real active on it. That's like that's like the whole means of like reaching people. It feels like, at least on this platform and stuff. You can go out and like play music and do shit. I can't really like podcast.
Yeah.
Well, not yet anyway. I don't think anybody'd be happy enough to come or cool enough to come see us.
Yeah, you
But we
never
could
know.
try it.
Yeah, I think we
We'll
might
do
be
like
a
the
little,
live thing.
we might
Yeah.
be a little more popular than you think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
They might show up.
I think keep doing all the different, like, the sweet variety of guests and stuff too. You start, you know, people start hearing the name and like
Recognizing,
associating with
yeah.
you guys and local entertainment.
Yeah, it's all just part of the process, man. It's growing pains. You're fucking going crazy on social media too, dude.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, like, to see you do it, and we talk a lot about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and have been kind of helping each other creatively. And it's interesting because it is something that I'd never put a lot of effort into.
Right.
But like what I'm finding out is just kind of all the time. Like, you know, like, check out this picture, we're doing this, we're doing that. And really with Ghost lately, there's so much going on that, like, every couple hours you could be on there talking about stuff. And in Facebook, I think it's like this crazy algorithm thing with them. Like, they want people on there as much as possible.
Oh,
right.
So they reward you. Like, you're doing, like, I'll get these posts from them or these messages from Facebook. They're like, you're doing so good. Why don't you make a couple more posts and we'll show this amount of people. So they encourage you to just kind of be on there all the time.
They really do.
I know that I just recently got offered a top fan badge for Smilo The Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
Nice.
you know, that did pop up in my notifications the other
Yeah.
day.
I'm getting a lot of messages about people wanting me to wear their clothing and stuff like that, and for Austin to be an influencer.
Yeah. You think it's spam?
No, dude, it's absolutely spam, dude. 100%.
Yeah.
No, it's a real thing. They're gonna send me all sorts of gear and like it's gonna be free, dude.
I get those from time to time.
I'm gonna get $10 for every picture I share, dude.
I got one from Instagram after the last episode we posted, and it was like, we think you would be the perfect model for our clothes, and it was some like super goth, you know, like clothing brand. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever worn clothes like that, you know.
That would
It's
be
definitely
totally
your
you, dude.
style, Dave.
Yeah.
Gotta give the people what they want.
Show them those nips. You know,
Yeah.
pop that top off.
But it's definitely rewarding too. I find myself getting addicted to it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, how many likes did I get this time? How big is my reach? How big is my reactions? All this stuff. I
think it's by design, right?
Oh yeah, dude. They want you to.
We're not the
do
only
it.
ones.
They definitely want you to go on there and continue to stay on there. You get these little rewards, these little pictures of like presents and stuff they send me when I get over 1,000 whatever's views on my reel or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is. It's interesting though, because I mean that's obviously the place to do that type of thing anymore. Is like all social media, and like I remember when I first started doing shows back in Ohio, way back in the day. You'd have a poster, you'd be literally handing out flyers, you'd be telling everybody you saw in person. It was really hard to get people to come.
Right.
And now, especially with like Ghost getting kind of like a diehard little fan base going, you could make a post, make a little video about it, and you can ensure that you get people to come out and support you live. So it's like good versus evil, right? And I think I hear a lot and think badly about the negative of social media and stuff. But it is kind of cool that you can be like, hey, we're in Washington, D.C. in like 3 weeks. And then people showing up in D.C. like, we're big fans. You didn't know about us. We follow you on Facebook.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, you've been hitting Virginia heavy.
Yeah, so that was super cool. We just did right before we did their studio, we did a little run. We played at this in Tryon, North Carolina. We played at this theater there.
That was the theater place?
Yeah, it was.
That place looked fucking cool.
Dude, it was beautiful. And there was actually a few people from Erie that like knew us from this area. And then there was people that, this place is kind of like... every year they do concerts at this place, so people are kind of like going to all of them anyway. Mm-hmm. And they've had some pretty big artists. I think Billy Strings did it a few years back. Obviously before he fucking mega
blew up. Yeah.
But people kind of prepared for it, like they were familiarized with themselves with the songs, and so that was really awesome. It was this little theater, and we probably had about 100 people, and they were super amazing and just like listened the whole time. And then we played in Hampton, Virginia the next night, and that was cool too, man. What was that place called? Vanguard Brewing Company. Super cool. There was this dude, Cody Christians, who opened up. He's from like Richmond, Virginia. Mm-hmm. He's been kind of getting popular. He's super fucking good. He was like a super big, he's a big dude. He's like 6'2", like kind of formed,
Mm-hmm. So like Tony.
Yeah, like me.
And just had he had this whole like Chris Stapleton vibe to him.
Okay,
he was
cool.
a very beautiful man.
Chris Stapleton's the guy who sang the national anthem, right?
He's just this
dude,
big
he was so beautiful,
he's
dude.
like a big monster of a man, right?
I love it.
Very beautiful.
And then the Leesburg, Virginia one that we played, it was our third stop on. It was just like a three night tour. We had people, all these different tables. Like we saw you at the Purple Fiddle. Because it's like 2 or 3 hours from Thomas, West Virginia. We've been playing at the Purple Fiddle. It's pretty legendary. And then this other table came up and like, hey, we saw you at the Fiddle. And I was like, do you know that other table? And they're like, no, we don't know who they are. And we had like 3 or 4 big groups that had all seen us at the Fiddle. And then we had about 50 or 60 people come from a house concert that we had done in Arlington, Virginia. This lady named Newton Chada. She actually works for the Pentagon. Remember me telling you about this?
I remember that. That was back when you were still living at the crib.
She does like documentaries for the Pentagon. So she'll go all over the world documenting stuff. And I think they're just like informational, educational things that she does for the government.
Cool.
But they're super into art and music. And I was able to do a show with them last May. And then Ghost went back again, I think, over the winter, and super intimate and chill. And then, when we were in Leesburg, she brought a huge fucking crowd of people. But it was crazy to be 5 or 6 hours, 6 or 7 maybe hours from home, and just seeing people singing the words. I think we all kind of had wow, this is like there's something actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are definitely moving up to like the next level of international folk punk music.
I think it, definitely. So we're going beyond local, and we're gaining a regional following. Mm-hmm. But it's really cool because we're hitting like a lot of New York, a lot of Pennsylvania, obviously, a lot of Ohio, and a lot of, as of recently, Virginia. And no matter where we go now, there's like people that are super fucking into it.
That's so cool.
And I think they're making like a real emotional connection to the music. And I've been pretty open with what a lot of it's about. And so many people, I swear to God, it's like, my son died from a heroin overdose, or my girlfriend's into it, or we've had people like, my son committed suicide and I find relief listening to this, or he liked it. There's been a lot of that stuff. So it's like all these people that are getting really into it, they have a pretty deep emotional connection, and they're willing to drive several hours to hear it.
I think that even though you saw it all over the news, and maybe the three of us have a connection with it more immediate than other people.
Yeah.
That opioid epidemic, it was so far reaching, it's still not over, but when it was at its peak in the mid 2010s, there really weren't too many people that weren't affected by it.
I think even now I think now it's worse than it's ever been.
With fentanyl and stuff, just knocking people down.
It's become the number one killer from like 18 to 43.
Sounds about right.
And it's killing like 100,000 people a year.
That's wild.
Which I don't think, and maybe back in 2010 there were more people doing heroin, but I think that fentanyl is just so much more potent that maybe now it's killing more people, but then more people were actually doing heroin.
Plus you had like oxys back then too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which were a little bit more standardized than the
knew what you were getting.
mixed bag of whatever the fuck you could be getting these days.
Yeah, like if you could do 3 oxy 40s, you could do them, and you knew you could do them.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get 1 bag of dope and you die, and maybe yesterday you could do 10 bags of dope.
Right.
And it's a culturally significant event that's on the scale of like a war. Like a Vietnam, something of that nature, with how many people are being affected, so like your music just touching that many people, I guess it kind of makes sense just with like the blueprint of like what America's been over the last like decade or two.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that like your songwriting has really kind of stepped up too with this latest album.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I've been flying by the seat of my pants for the last several months. Like, there's been several weeks, if not most, that I'm working 6 days a week in the morning in a kitchen, and I'm still traveling and doing 3 shows a week, and I'm still having Elliot 3 days a week, my son. And so if you can imagine, there's like very little time to write.
Yeah.
But like any time that I go to write, it's like awesome shit's happening. So I can't imagine, if we keep growing and the money keeps coming in and I'm able to kind of do that full time, and like literally like, what do I have to do the next 3 days? Like Monday through Wednesday, like I have to work on songs.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine what's going to come from that. If like, right now I've got 2 hours to work on something.
Right.
I hope it's good.
That sounds like an interesting quandary of like quantity versus quality. You know what I mean? Like right now you get 2 hours, but you pump out some fucking sick shit. Yeah. Whereas if you're sitting for like maybe 6 hours working on one thing, it may not be as good. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when you're inspired and you have stuff to write, it's a little bit different than just like sitting down and going for it. Maybe. I mean, that's just how I imagine it. Yeah. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, so it used to be I didn't do anything but play guitar and do drugs. Mm-hmm. And like, it was weird. Like, you think with that formula, you'd be getting so much done. But like, I didn't actually get that much done.
Right.
I put in my, 40,000 hours of like singing and playing guitar, but like I wasn't making records, right? Or like I would make them like when I got clean. But now it's not so in the past it was I'd sit down and I'd write a song in like an hour or two from start to finish, and I wouldn't really fine tooth comb it. Like I'd be like, I got another one, cool, let's keep going.
Right.
Now it's like, with voice recorder, it's like, oh, I have a couple of cool lines, and like I'll get back to it next time I have the time, and then I keep developing it. And I think in that way it's kind of cool too, because you can go over it with a fine tooth comb. Like you're thinking about it, or like at work, like working in the kitchen doing a lot of prep in the morning, I can kind of listen to what I was recording, and I really listen more than I'm like sitting at a guitar. So that in a sense, that's like a lot of practice for me too. I'll just kind of listen over and over, and I'm like, oh, I should say this. So then I'll get on my notepad on the phone too while I'm working on the clock. They're always busting my balls about my phone.
Sure.
I'm like, I'm doing 2 jobs right here. Come on,
trying to get famous here.
Like sign an autograph. You might want to hold on to that. All this bitching you're doing,
right? But yeah. So I get to use my phone a lot with words and like melodies, and like you're kind of forming something over the course of a couple of months, and you're not actually sitting at the guitar all day long.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the process is definitely sounds like it's gotten a little bit more refined, and you're not settling for something that's done in an hour anymore. You're really putting a lot more time over a longer period of time into each song individually to make sure that they really speak to people.
Yeah. And so with this record, it was cool too, because there was several songs that we've had, and we even did on that Pack Alive album. If you're not familiar, check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, go check it out.
And Spotify. But so we do have recordings of some of these. But we didn't, and we've been playing them in the live set, and a lot of them have become like staples in the live set. But we didn't have like a real nice studio version. So I think 4 or 5 are like that, and we did 13 tracks. And there is, one of the songs is an older song that I was doing years ago, and we kind of did like a ghost twist on it. And then there are several that are completely brand new that like nobody's really heard yet. Ooh. But it was a cool mix. And we did the ones, we tracked the ones that we were more comfortable with first, and they kind of flew by. And then there was many times, I think when you were there doing pictures, we were kind of like stopping, like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And we're literally writing all in isolation booths, looking at each other through glass.
Speaking through headphones.
And the engineer's like, he had this look in his face, like, you guys are paying $1,000 a day, and you're having band practice right now as I'm recording.
And then talking about other ideas afterwards, like, yo, we could get a string quartet in here for another couple $100. And like, speaking of the money, the amount of money that you guys raised was absolutely mind-boggling to see, dude. I'm so happy for you that like so many people love and support what you're doing to like,
and how fast.
Oh my God!
How quickly you were able to raise that money too, just incredible.
I watched it the whole time. Like every like couple of days, I would see one of your posts and I check on there and see how much you went up, and I was like, oh my God, it was just so cool to watch and to see. We got a vinyl album, and I'm super excited for it. It'll be my first ever vinyl album. Celinda has a couple and a record player upstairs, but I'm super pumped about it, dude. And I'm so happy for you. That must have been like an incredible feeling to see that kind of support for your music.
Yeah. So when we were, when I was putting together the Indiegogo, I think initially I was going to ask for 10 grand, and I was like really doubtful about the results of it. Because it's one thing, people come out, people are supportive. It's another thing that people to pay $1,200 for you to come play at their backyard barbecue, or to like pay $500 to be listed as a producer. I was thinking like, who is going to do this? And then like last minute, I was like genuinely like, you know what? 10 grand's not going to cover what we want to do. I'm going to bump it up to 12, and hope for the best. And within like 5 days, we had to hit 12 grand. And then over this last couple of weeks, we raised a few more thousand. But yeah, I had it set up so my email would ding every time somebody donated.
Shit, yeah.
And like that first week, it was just like ding, ding, ding. Yeah, I was pumped, dude. I was on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And it was only because of those people that we were able to do what we were doing. That's a lot of money, man.
That's a ton of money.
Yeah, like, and it's not like somebody had said to me, like, oh, you guys will be able to get a vehicle too. And I'm like, no, man. We're like we did 50 hours of tracking. You're looking at $100 an hour. That's $5K, right? And then we just set up an additional day for 10 hours. That's another G. And then producing vinyls can be anywhere from $2 to $3 grand on a minimum order. Mm-hmm. So like, it's like, I can see how fast you can spend. When you hear like a band spent $50,000 in the studio and you think that's crazy, I can totally see it.
Yeah.
We went in there fairly prepared, and even still kind of tracked live. Like, we were all in isolation booths. So like any one of us could re-record our parts later, because we weren't like married in sound. You know what I mean? But we still even tracked live and were able to burn through stuff quickly.
And you guys were kicking ass too. When I was in there, like, you guys were like, it was really, I didn't want to interfere at all, because I knew, like, obviously I'm here to take pictures, but like the primary focus for you guys is to record this album, and you guys were like so locked into that and so focused on that and just like burning through. I mean, you recorded 13 songs.
Yeah.
And so that's like 2 songs a day.
Yeah, we were hustling, and so I think there's a couple that are pretty much complete, but like so the first 3 days we were recording the songs, like the bones of the songs, like everybody playing together, getting a solid take that was in time, everybody's in tune, we're happy with what we have. And then after that, it's like, hey, we should add ooze to this part, or like, let's get Adam on some harmonies, or let's do a violin part here. And so then you're just building out the tracks. And so the last 2 days we were up there was like, we were doing that.
Yeah, and the production value is such a big thing too. I mean, I appreciate a lot of like simplicity in songs, and I think a lot of your music is kind of like that. And I think folk music is kind of simple in its nature, but like being able to add all of the, you know,
the proper fixins
to really like make it like stand out and be special and be amazing and really like upgrade that musical quality and upgrade the experience of the listener who's, you know, paying for these CDs and to listen to this music.
I feel like sometimes, you know, even if it is like that, you know, raw acoustic, you know, crisp sound, like there's so much that goes into it to make it sound like it's just like, you know, raw and bare to the bone. And
a lot of it's like subtle too.
Like a little track of ooze can really like make a song so much more powerful.
And Adam, so I'm the most abrasive and aggressive in the band, and like just fucking wailing away. And Adam, Jason, and Dom, they're all, you know, much more trained at music than I am, and they all, you know, some of the stuff that I hear on the record, like I haven't heard them live because I'm playing and singing, and like I know it sounds good, I know it sounds great, but like we're in the studio and I'm like, damn, I'm loving that banjo part, and Dom's like, yeah, that's what I've been playing
the whole time,
like for a year, but you don't hear it. And I really understood how good those guys were in that moment, because they're so fucking talented, and they're doing, you know, a lot of times it's super tasteful, and they're doing everything to kind of back up the song. And that really came to light every time we record, but this time specifically because it is those like really subtle, that little trickle on the mandolin, like behind the right vocal line, that I might not realize live or something, but you hear it on a record, you're like, ooh, that's tasty. You know what I mean? They're pros, dude.
It's those fine touches, you know, and that just shows like how good everybody is. I mean, you guys have been at this for like what?
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, and with COVID in the middle, that was kind of like a mindfuck.
Right.
You know, it's interesting, and we might have talked about this last time I was here. I think we did. It's like, you know, being clean, going on 5 years, and like being on my second half of my 30s. You know, it's like some people would probably at that point be like, it's time to have the wife, it's time to have the kids, like, you know, the days are over, my fucking hair's falling out, blah, blah, blah. But like for us, you know, I was out of the picture for like almost 2 years. So out of that 7 years, like I was in and out of treatment, and we weren't doing much. And then COVID happened and nobody was doing shit. So you can almost account like 4 of those years as like nothingness. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of ways, this is the very first time that we've ever been given hell. And yeah, and when, you know, those guys aren't all crazy on drugs.
No.
And Dom, the banjo player, he's been in recovery too, going on 3 years, I believe. And I used to know him when he was partying. He was a fucking nightmare too. That banjo was never in tune.
Yeah.
He'd always be like, let's jam. And I'd be like, dude, I think you're more fucked up than I am. That ain't going to work out. But the stars have aligned in a way that, you know, that clarity that you get in recovery and not using, that goes in every area of your life. And even with music, it's like, you know, you're hearing things different. You're completely present. It's not always amazing. Like there was something about smoking a joint and playing guitar. Like I might not have got a lot done, like I was talking about earlier. Like I did a lot of drugs and played a lot of guitar, and like in the moment it felt so good.
Right.
But like, what was I doing? Was I doing show? What was I getting out of it besides maybe some practice? But like, yeah, being sober all the time. Music isn't amazing all the time. Sometimes like there's so many times I play shows and I'm like, man, you know, like I wish I was in bed like watching The Office or something, you know. Right. But drugs would like
make that okay.
Yeah, but maybe you would be sloppy or like not paying attention to what was happening. There is something to be said about being sober at all times. You guys know about that.
Yeah, you seem like you're a lot sharper lately.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, since I've known you, I've got to watch like your progression and shit, and you developing and like as like a musician, as a human being, all that stuff, and you really seem like you have it together right now, like mentally, like your brain is like firing on all cylinders, like, and I think you can really tell from like the time that I've known you, because I mean, it's just an incredible transformation, and like your work and the emphasis that you're putting on everything just really shows to me that like you're completely, I don't want to say you're completely recovered, but like your brain has recovered. You know what I mean? It's not surrounded in and it goes to your songwriting too. It's a credit to your songwriting, your sobriety, and the way that you're able to, you know, maximize your cognitive potential and use all those abilities to, you know, write these amazing songs and to be on top of, you know, work and Elliot and music and everything else that you got going on in your world right now.
Yeah. To be honest, you know, living with you, like I lived in that recovery home. So I went to inpatient rehab, and then I lived at the halfway house, started working again and stuff. And then went to that 3-quarter house. I did like a step down, and then I lived with you for a couple of years, and you're a recovering addict, and like you have your shit together. You know, you got a house and the dog and the tree house in the back, and
Hell yeah,
it was a
recording studio in the basement.
It was like a really good place for me to be. And I just kind of, for the first time, I think I accepted I don't really know shit, which I could never accept before, right? And just kind of watch how other people did things. And yeah, as of lately, it's like really coming together. And I think a lot of that is just not using drugs and trying to be better every day. And like when you do a shitty thing, you try to make up for it like immediately. And if you live your life like that, everything gets infinitely better. Like the music, your relationships, your relationship at work, your relationship with your friends, your relationship with your kid. And it's like not perfect all the time, but it is crazy. It's formative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Transformational for sure, dude.
I don't think it can be understated how inspirational it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, from what I see, like you know, just the growth and the things you've been able to accomplish is just incredible. Like, I remember the first time I ever met you was before you were in recovery. So just like the person it was only once, it was randomly on the west side of town. I think you were living with Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you weren't living there, you were just hanging out there or whatever.
Squatting.
Yeah, squatting or whatever. But from like that point to now, it's just like such an incredible, inspirational trajectory. It's awesome. It's not a question. I'm just telling you, it's fucking awesome what you're doing.
Well, being around guys like you, you know, changed my life. For real.
We do our best to keep the doors open for anybody else that wants to walk through them around here for sure.
It's fucking awesome, man.
So you got a bunch of shows lined up. You're traveling around. You're going to Washington, D.C. You're going out to Boston.
Yeah.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah, so that's another thing I think I was talking about a little bit earlier, but it's just kind of amazing. So, you know, we've been doing the Virginia stuff. A lot of the stuff that Ghost has done over the years has been like off the beaten trail. You know, you might show up to this brewery. It's not really like a huge destination spot that all the bands play, but like we're setting up on the patio and like we're going to win some fans.
Hell yeah.
We've done a lot of that over the years. Mm-hmm. Just recently, we're like, you know, like this Boston show. I forget the name of the venue. I could look it up, but it's like a premier place to play. Like, we're not just going to Boston to go to Boston. Like, we're going to play where, like, fucking legit-ass bands play.
It's nice to have, like, I remember you talking about this, too, when you were living at the house, that, like, a lot of the bar shows and stuff like that around here they're not really there to see you guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're talking, they're carrying on, they're having their own time. They got some music in the background. They don't really care too much.
You're, like, you're providing, like, an atmosphere for people.
Right. Mm-hmm. And now you are, like, the focal point of these people's events, like going out and like seeing music and going to see you specifically.
That's a hard gap to cross, because it was years of like, I wish people would fucking listen to these songs. I poured my heart into them, and they're like, you know, trying to get laid and eating chicken wings. And I don't blame them, because I have definitely been the guy at a bar that like didn't give a fuck about the guy singing, and I wasn't like, oh, I wonder what this guy's life story is right now. You know, like let me listen to like what he spent. You know, I totally get it, but it is like, it's soul crushing sometimes. And then to go from that to like, you're down in Virginia several hours away and people are there to fucking see you and like they're wearing the shirts and they're revved up. It's like that is a gap that I think a lot of people, it's hard to cross. And we're just on the precipice of moving in that direction. And it's fucking crazy, dude. Yeah. It's like, it almost brings you to tears because like, I think a lot of people probably give up before that point.
Sure.
Like we gigged, we made a little cash, but like, you know,
you got four or
can get
five.
bitter.
You got some people that show up to all your shows or whatever, but for the most part, you're playing for randos that are not even going to remember Smilo and the Ghost afterwards.
I think like, and this is
they're going to remember you now though.
Every time I hear like musicians come on and talk about that gap or whatever, like I just think like Billy Joel, like Piano Man. You know, like that's the most perfect like representation of that, of going from just like, you know, the musician at the local bar to like someone who gets the attention of people. That's got to be such a cool feeling.
Yeah, especially I think when it's like a very organic slow burn for a lot of guys. And I see it a lot in like the folk and bluegrass scene. Like guys that I love, like Jason Isbell, you know, guys like Tyler Childers, these guys aren't like 20-year-old heartthrobs. These guys are like late 30s, early 40s, have been fucking
grinding.
Avett Brothers like blew up when they were like, you know, almost 40. I mean, those guys were like living out of a van forever. And then now they're working with Rick Rubin. And it's a very different genre and path than like somebody who's like a Justin Bieber, who's just like this sexy kid who Usher finds on YouTube, and now you're a mega fucking star when you're 23. Like they're two completely different life paths.
I feel like folk, but minus some like massive exceptions, like a Bob Dylan. Yeah. I feel like with folk, with how much like heart and soul and angst that goes into the storytelling behind it, like you almost have to have some age for it to be believable or for people to get behind it.
You got to have that life experience.
That makes a lot of sense. Because, like, you listen to... You guys are familiar with Jason Isbell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he's got this song, like, called Elephant. And it's like... He's... You know, I don't know if it's a made-up story or a true story, but he's singing about this woman that he's super close to and probably would be lovers with if she wasn't, like, dying of cancer. And the whole premise is, like, they spend time together... They are super close. He's there for her, but she's like dying in this process, and they would probably be lovers if she wasn't dying, but they never address like the elephant in the room. And it's
a powerful song.
Oh my God.
Powerful premise.
There's no like 20-year-old kid writing that song, right?
No.
Yeah. Like this is like fucking, to me, it's like the pinnacle of amazing songwriting, because he's like, there's a story. The premise is fucking brilliant, and how he conveys it and ties it all together in a song, it's like brilliant. And like a lot of people might not see that or know who he is, but like that to me is like amazing. And to go along with what you're saying, Dave, it's like, like a 20-year-old dude's probably not putting that together.
No, I wouldn't think so.
I think that a 20-year-old also doesn't have like the mental or emotional stamina to go out and pour their heart out and soul for a bunch of people that aren't listening and don't give a fuck.
Maybe, but that is...
I feel like that's really hard. That would be really hard for me to like go up on stage and like perform to my maximum ability, like really dumping it out there, jumping around, moving, doing all the things that you guys do while you're on stage, when nobody's paying attention.
Yeah, it can make you it can make you bitter. And there's been several nights where like I have gotten bitter and upset and like down on myself and like, why am I doing this? But it's the same thing with like, to me, it's the same thing with like recovery. Like you might have a fucking shit night, you might have a shit day, but like I'm not gonna stop doing what I'm doing. And like there's a lot of drive there and motivation. And I think a lot of people probably get to that point. You know, to speak of this is Nathaniel Ratcliffe. You know how fucking popular that dude is now?
Sure.
You guys familiar with him? Mm-hmm. There's a documentary called From Austin to Boston. And it's the banjo player of Mumford & Sons. Trying to think of this other dude. Ben Howard who's a great singer-songwriter, great guitar player, and Nathaniel Ratcliffe. And this was right before Nathaniel Ratcliffe really blew up. And it's a documentary about how they traveled from Austin to Boston, and they were touring and making music, and the shows were pretty great and shit. But like this dude, Nathaniel Ratcliffe, when I saw the documentary, I really didn't know who he was. And most people probably didn't know who he was like 5-10 years ago. But this dude just didn't come out of thin air. Like he had been doing like kind of what I'm doing for a long time. And there's a scene in it, and I might misquote or might have different details. It's been a while, but he's like in this river, and he's got a bottle of whiskey in his hands, and he's like waiting, and they're all kind of like hanging out at this scenic spot, and he's like in tears, and he's like, I fucking like have, you know, I missed my daughter growing up. I fucking spent my life doing this, and like look at me now, I'm like nowhere, you know. And it was like, wow, that dude's really fucking upset about this life path he's been on and how it hasn't been working out to what he's wanted. And then, dude, I swear to God, just like within a couple of years, fucking he's gigantic now. Fucking son of a bitch, I need a drink. You know that dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was crazy to see that.
Everybody has like those, at least I have, those really powerful moments of like existential dread where it's like, what the fuck am I doing? And they're usually never that long. Actually, it's funny because I started seeing a therapist in like I realized I have like these short bursts of like incredible productivity and incredible emotions and incredible existential dread or whatever. And it's about an hour long. And then after that, I have like a cool down period where I just like relax and realize that things are okay and stuff like that. But in those like 1 hour time span, sometimes a little bit longer than that, of like, what the fuck am I doing? Like my life is not where I wanted to be. I'm missing out on these experiences, or I'm wasting my time or money or effort or whatever it is. But they always pass, you know? If I can make it through that hour without doing anything drastic and like really committing to like quitting or stopping or whatever it is that I'm, you know, freaking out about for this hour long period, things generally end up okay. And I think more people need to stop committing to those like brief periods of existential dread. I don't know if either of you guys have like those times.
Oh, I definitely do. And I tend to, I've been doing this thing lately where I will, when I start getting that feeling, usually it's during downtime. Like if I'm busy doing something, if I'm at work, I don't really have time to think about that. So if I start getting that feeling and I can't get my head out of it, I'll like throw my phone in the corner of the room and I'll go for a walk, you know, and I'll clear my head. The most powerful of like the cliche sayings I've ever heard that stuck with me is this too shall pass. Like you make your good and your good decisions, your bad decisions, and like life goes on either way, because like none of us are the centers of the universe. And I think some of the most, like you'll listen to some of the most powerful or wealthy or popular or famous or successful people say the same things we're saying right now. Like everybody gets to a point where it's like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a very common denominator of the human experience. You got to push through. If it's something you believe in and you love and you get enjoyment of for the majority of your life or your time doing it, then you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it comes down to.
I think the cool thing too is like you're talking about like recognizing patterns in like your mental health, and that's another interesting thing about sobriety. Sobriety.
Very, very British.
is when you're sober all the fucking time. You're like I'm as sober as I'm ever going to be. Like I'm fucking sober. It's been a long time.
Sober as fuck, bro.
But you really pay attention to your patterns. And like I noticed that even a couple years ago, like I would have like 3 or 4 days where I like was just super depressed, and then I'd be fine for a few weeks. And it was like this pattern. But like initially you're in those 3 or 4 days and it's like that feeling like represents you, like, oh,
this is forever.
I'm miserable, like I hate my life, poor me, like I don't know, you know, what I'm gonna do. And it's like it was everything. And then you kind of snap out of it and be fine. And then I learned I learned that like I have those sometimes, like these patterns, and just kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna feel like shit for a couple days. I don't know why this is happening, but this is just something with me, right? And usually, probably in the past, those would be the times where like I would relapse or like I would do something crazy or like, you know, this too shall pass. Like, dude, you know, you might not feel amazing today, but like it's not the fucking end of the world.
Yeah, cool your jets there, kid.
Cool them jets.
That's true.
And not committing to those those feelings too, I think is really big, because like in the past it's really easy to ride that 2-3 day long period into 2-3 long month period if you just dwell on that shit and keep feeding it to yourself over and over and over again until you're sick and tired and ready to make a change.
Yeah, for sure. And in those moments for me is like moments in the past where I'd probably be super impulsive. Mm-hmm. Because, like, you know, how dare I feel like this?
Right.
Like the audacity the world has. It's just so dramatic.
Smiting me.
You know what's funny, too, is that, and this is important as well, and Tony kind of brought this up talking about, like, the therapist. Anytime that I've ever had those, like, deep kind of, like, negative thoughts, and I actually, like, get a hold of somebody and talk to somebody and get, like, through the thought, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
You know, like you got to talk to people sometimes, because I know I can be my own worst enemy if I don't get that shit out in the open air.
Oh yeah, and if you're so like in your mind, you've built up this situation or this issue or this thought, this negative thought, and it's all in your head, right? And then you call somebody that you trust and love, and even as you're saying it, you're like, this is fucking stupid, dude.
Right.
Like, this is bullshit. And they're like, yeah, dude, that's bullshit. And then you're like, you feel better. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's fucking insane that just kind of sometimes even just getting another person on the phone or in person or whatever and just saying what you've been thinking that's been bugging you out loud, you're like, yeah, that's fucking ridiculous.
I actually haven't done, I used to do this all the time, but I haven't done it in a while. And you saying that made me think of this, that I used to know when I had like a really fucking bad idea or it was going to do something really stupid, I'd be like, this is really dumb. I don't want to do it. But I needed like that external validation of another human being like, yeah, Tony, this is a stupid fucking idea. And you need to not do what you're thinking about doing right now, because it's gonna blow up in your face, and you already know that, but I just need to hear it out of another person's voice to like reaffirm it, because I can't trust myself sometimes, you know. I need that outside perspective to give me a little bit of guidance or a little bit of a push to really, you know, hammer that thought home that this is not a good fucking idea, or this is not a good way to live my life.
Yeah.
Or you get the flip side of it where you are a little reticent or whatever, and people are like pushing you to do it, or like kind of what you've been talking about, you know, you go down to Virginia and it's a new kind of territory or whatever, and you see people that are like, you know, the stuff that you're doing is good, we love it, keep doing it, and it's like the push you need to keep on going in the direction you've been going.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I don't know how, you know, what God or specific religion I abide by, but there's so many things that have happened in my life, and it's like the universe knew I needed that boost, and it came at the exact right time. And there's also a lot, you know, like if I think we all need humbled, for sure. For you know, especially my mind. Like, especially when I use drugs, like, you're artificially pumped up and that ego's fucking huge, and you're obviously overcompensating for, like, how worthless you really feel. But, like, I'm fucking the best. And sometimes, you know, sometimes even clean, like, that mindset takes over, and then you play some shithole, and, like, you're like, actually, I'm not the best. I'm pretty sure I fucking suck. And I think you need that from time to time. You know, it makes you appreciate things, and you don't have such, like, a grandiose opinion of what you're doing, at least with music. It's like, and I think when you do get to that place where you got 200 people or whatever that came out to see you at a theater and they're all fucking fired up on your shit, like, you're like at a balanced place, because you know at that point you've earned it and you feel good about it, but like you ate dog dick for like years years to get that, and you learn to appreciate it.
Having a little bit of gratitude goes a long way, for sure.
And if things, you know, if things would have popped off, it's like these child stars are like people that blow up, like Miley Cyrus, people that blow up at such a young age. Like they tend to be pretty fucked up, and they've been given everything, but like your sense of reality is fucking skewed. So I think there's something to be said about that guy that just goes out and beats the dusty trail and eats a ton of shit, and by the time if things start to work out, it's like, okay, I can handle it now. I've been on both sides. I know reality. I know my worth. I know how to eat shit. Whatever.
Yeah, it's an important skill to be able to eat a little bit of shit.
Do you think there's a level of fame that you wouldn't want, like uncomfortability? Like you're talking like playing in front of 200 people, it's awesome. Like what if it got to the point, I mean, it seems like the dream, but like what if it got to the point where you're playing in front of like 25,000 people where you're like,
we got PPG arena filled.
Yeah, PPG, or like you walk down the street to come in here to do another podcast and people are like, holy fuck, that's Tyler Smilo,
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what that would be like. I don't even know if that would ever be possible. But yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. I do know that like this scene, like, you guys familiar with Trampled by Turtles? I was talking to somebody recently, and this guy books bigger shows up in New York area, and I said, when you guys get trampled by turtles, let us know. We'd love to open. And the guy was like, we tried, but they're a fucking $125,000 a show now.
Oh.
And like most people don't even know who Trampled by Turtles are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'd say the majority of people don't know who Trampled by Turtles are, but like there is a certain part of society, the festy goers or the folk scene people, they fucking love them. But like that blew my fucking mind, because it's like, those guys can go to Walmart and not get tackled. Nobody's coming up with like, right, crazy,
Yeah.
They're like a level of fame where like, dude, those guys have 401ks, those guys have an accountant, those guys have a team of people working for them. They're going out for a few months out of the year, and they're completely living off of it. When you're making that much money.
Sure, yeah.
So like there are so many levels, I think, of success, but like we've all kind of talked about it. If we could get to a point where we all like have decent homes and like travel around, create our own schedule, and I think that's completely doable. I genuinely do. And there's been times in my life where I thought it wasn't at all, and I think realistically and humbly, like, it is possible, and I think it's maybe hopefully within the next like 5 years. But I think a lot of it is like what we've been saying, just like not giving up, keep showing up. You might eat dog dick.
Often.
That's still,
a lot of it.
That still happens. We still show up places, and we're super pumped about it, and it might be a great venue, and like nobody shows up at all, and it doesn't seem very well received, and you have an off night. That shit still happens a lot. But you get these, like we were talking, like that Virginia thing, that was like, wow, we're pretty far from home, and these people are really fired up, and we're talking to them and hanging out with them and like making connections. And it's like, I think if we just keep going, like, we're going to meet our goal. But like, to answer your question, I could never imagine playing for 25,000 people. That would be like,
that's like a big festival.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's totally doable, dude. Yeah. I bet you, I'll do a gentleman's bet of $1. 5 years, Tyler Smilo will have played at a major festival for 25,000 people.
That's not even,
maybe not headlining, but dude,
yeah,
that's definitely real.
I'm thinking like it wouldn't even have to be a major festival. Like I'm thinking like when I went and saw Dead and Company at Blossom, that was a couple years ago now, but I always look at the attendance afterwards just because I'm a nerd like that, and it was around like 21 grand. So it wouldn't even have to be like a few huge like festival numbers, just like a pretty decent sized outdoor place.
Well, I feel like with a festival, you have a lot more other attractions, and not to say that you couldn't. I'd say playing a place like Boston solo and filling it up for 25,000 people is a lot harder.
Where'd you say?
Like playing Blossom and filling it up solo is a lot harder than playing on, like middle of the lineup. Yeah. Festival like summer camp or something like that.
Yeah, I think getting into that realm, like this Washington D.C. thing is with this band called The Last Revel, and they're on the up and up. I think I was checking them out on Spotify because I wasn't familiar when we got the slot. But then like after checking them out, I had actually heard a couple songs, and these guys got like 12, 15 million streams apiece. Like it's a lot more than us. They're on the up and up. And to get the show, the venue had to like us, and then the venue had to tell us like, hey, we like you. We're going to submit you to the Last Rebels management company, and they're going to check you out. And if they approve, then you guys can have the show. So we had like a few days waiting, and they checked us out, and they thought we'd be a great opener for them. So that's new for us too.
You had like a little audition almost.
Yeah.
Just based off your stuff that you have out.
But like support roles for bigger bands. Mm-hmm. And I feel like once you knock that out and you've done it once or twice, who knows what can come from it, especially if you show up, you're a cool dude, super respectful, you're on time, you're pro, and you knock it out of the park. And especially with DC, like having some people in that area, maybe we could, because Arlington and Leesburg, it's not terribly far. So if we show up, we got people there with shirts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who knows what could happen, right? So that's new for us too. And I feel like once you've knocked that door down once, it just keeps getting easier.
Absolutely.
And then you team up with the right band and do like a mini tour or something. And I think I'm hoping that's next on the horizon for us. But going back to Trampled by Turtles, at $125K a show, if we could get to a point where we were making like $10,000 a show, I mean that's life changing.
Yeah.
That's life changing. I mean that's having a home. I mean, you're paying people at that point. Like you got people working your social media, you got people, running the merch table. Maybe you got a driver, you got a vehicle that you're paying for.
Trailer.
Yeah, like that. There's expenses, but like that's fucking life changing.
Especially if you're playing you play 10 shows at $10,000. That's $100,000. I mean, it's getting split up amongst the band, but that's some serious fucking cash.
Hell yeah.
And say you did like 100 shows a year at that.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's taken care of.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely a home in recovery because you wouldn't have a massive cocaine bill.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And the cool thing about going into this clean and sober, like I've thought about it a lot. Like if we get to that point, like I totally would hire an accountant and I would set up a 401k and a retirement and do all that stuff that like maybe if you were coked out of your mind in Aerosmith in the 70s. Yeah. Like
they're spending that money.
They probably weren't thinking about that.
Right.
And a lot of those like classic rock dudes ended up broke and fucking homeless at the end. Or the record label owned their shit. So like it's interesting being where we are, where I am mentally and with the recovery and everything. It's like, okay, I think this is possible. I want to go about it the right way if it does happen, and having goals and shit set up because that would be life changing, especially if you managed it correctly.
Absolutely.
Like if you fucking blew it.
Yeah, right.
Just for like, we're fucking killing it.
Shots for everybody in the bar.
Yeah, just ego takes over. You're trying to hook up with girls and do
drive
all
a new Mercedes.
Yeah, Lamborghini down the street.
Yeah, but like keep that Kia Forte in a nice humble home, and I think it'd be possible, man.
Definitely. Future goals, dude.
That's a goal, bro. That's a goal.
It's gonna be amazing. I love hearing that like these things that we once thought were impossible are like within the reality of like the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like you're not. A lot of life is like you're not there yet, but like for once in your life, you can see that like, hey, it's possible, and like I just keep following the steps I'm doing.
It's incredible.
That's mind blowing, right?
I mean, you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's like, damn, I just need to keep walking down this fucking tunnel until I get there.
Yeah, and some days, to go back to where we were, some days are going to suck dog dicks.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, tomorrow's another day, and if I don't do anything too crazy and impulsive today, then I'll be able to figure it out tomorrow.
Seems like I've learned from my experience, the more you string positive intent together in what you're doing, positive action, you have less of those days that suck dog dick.
Yeah,
exactly.
Positivity too is like, it's contagious, and especially with Ghost specifically, like all the negative stuff that was associated with my using, and then inevitable the beefs that we had as individuals, a lot of that stuff is dissipated, and overall it's a good vibe, and everybody's kind of healthy and happy. And with my relationship with my girlfriend, it's like we keep a pretty happy vibe, and that kind of stuff is contagious, and it gives you motivation and a positive spin on things. not be so like down in the dumps, and being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, you know what, this shit's possible, and I got good people around me.
Right. And that the old saying of you are who you hang out with is so true. You know,
I hated when my mom used to say that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, my friends are cool.
I'm like, that's not my pipe, Mom. That's Tony's. I'm just holding it for him.
Yeah. He's
guy-
bad. But I would never do that.
No, I don't have any horse sweaters, you know, like.
Yeah. But it is contagious. And that goes into that saying a lot. You know, you see other people that are succeeding and putting the work in and putting the time in and doing well and making progress and treating other people kindly and with respect and just continuing to upgrade that status of yourself and of your work, and the progress is all just you know, it's incredibly motivating. And that's the one thing, that's one of the things I really appreciate about it, having this podcast since we started, is just like these incredibly talented, motivated individuals that wear 5,000 fucking hats to do everything that they're doing. You know, you got to manage social media, you got to manage the business, you got to do accounting, you have to play your fucking music and write songs and take care of a kid and have a girlfriend and all these things that are like incredibly important. But people manage to find that balance, and it's if anything, I hope that this podcast helps people see that, you know, there is opportunity out there, and you do have the ability to do, you know, to follow your dreams, and it's a slow progress, but you're not going to get anywhere if you're just sitting around watching Netflix all day or playing video games or doing whatever, which all of that is stuff that like is good and healthy and productive in its own way, but that can't be it. You know, you got to put on those other hats.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of my life doing that, like using drugs, aimlessly playing guitar all day and watching movies. Like, dude, I've seen so many fucking movies.
I'm a big media consumer still.
Yeah, I am too. It's been harder lately, but yeah, and I think a lot of people do that too. They get off, they go to a job they don't really like that much, and they go home and they kick their feet up and they watch TV all night and look at their phone. And I can relate because I've totally been there.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, like, fucking life is going to end, and probably sooner than we hope. And like, what are you doing? Like, are you really enjoying your time here, or are you just like, what's the point of having like a nice house and a nice car if like you go to a job that you don't like and then you just come home and lay in bed all night? And I've been that person, but like, it's, for me, that's not ideal.
I think it all just depends what, like, it comes down to what makes you happy. For some people, the job is just like something that they do to support their family. So like, you know, they feel indifferent about it. Like, it just depends on you not being like miserable or feeling stuck every day of your life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that a lot of people lack that passion, or that you know, that one thing that really drives them, that one thing that like makes them want to get up in the morning. And you know, for some people that's family, for other people that's music or performing or what, you know, their art, whatever that may be. But I feel like a lot of people are really missing that piece, that passion, that drive, that motivation, that one thing that kind of consumes them and gives them the reason to keep progressing and to keep working and to keep going towards, you know, the light at the end of that tunnel. Yeah. And I think that society hasn't done us very many favors in helping us grow and foster that specific passion, because everything's like, oh, I can only imagine how many times you've heard, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but people were like, you're never going to be a folk punk star.
Folk punk star.
Or maybe
or a musician or a singer-songwriter or whatever. You're never going to make any money doing that stuff,
that's
you know?
the one. How are you going to make money doing this? And
right.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, fuck the money. That'll come.
And going back to what Dave said too, you know, yeah, it is all about what makes people happy, you know, and people have different personality types, and not to shit on people that just kind of go to work, and because for a lot of people, family, having,
you know what I mean?
Having a place to live and going to the beach in the summer and having vacations and having the kids, like, that is amazing for all of them.
And being part of a family is incredibly rewarding and fulfilling in so many ways.
Yeah. And I was speaking a little bit more towards the people that kind of lived in fear, like I've lived for so long, and like they feel like their voice isn't being heard, and they kind of are in this perpetual routine that they don't want to really be in.
Right.
And I think that's what's so cool about social media and well, the internet and stuff now as it progresses is like so many more people are able to have creative outlets that they might not have had before.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is much lower.
You got to think, dude, self-employment has got to be record high. I mean, unbelievable record highs.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities that people didn't have even 15 years ago.
And I think that small business ownership and people seeing, it's just such a resource to be able to reach out to people for like any small business owner, whether you're selling, whatever it is, crafts you make, your art, your music, whatever, you have an outlet to be able to reach, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people if you're good enough at it.
It's a good time to be an artist.
I think that people are more willing to help each other because of technology too, because you learn so much just through like messaging people or like free crowdsourcing of information on places like YouTube. Whereas in the past, like to really get ahead, like you'd have to pay for
A consultant.
Because
you don't know these people.
Help. Yeah.
You can't reach out to them. You can't talk to them. Like I can just send a fucking text on Messenger to anybody on Facebook,
Yeah. And like even just like that crowdfunding thing. I mean, through technology, we were able to raise far beyond what we could before and very, very quickly and literally turned into real dollars. And then, within 2 weeks we were at that studio recording. It's like, that's a fucking crazy time to be alive. It's really, that was like a beyond blessing. Like being able to go and do that and have it like fan funded is fucking nuts.
You would have, like 20 years ago, you would have had to have gone door to door like Jehovah's Witness with a Smilo and the Ghost CD.
or maybe been like 1 out of 100,000 and signed up with a label that paid for you to do that, but then you fucking owed them an interest and they owned your ass.
Right.
So it's interesting. Like I love that independent thing that we're doing. Like when I first showed up, we were talking about Squarespace and the website and stuff, like able to have a website that I run, it's kind of bare bones, but able to sell tickets to shows. And, there's not 35 people with their hands in on that pot.
Right.
It's going, covering the venue fees and paying the bands to play. And it's like super like direct to consumer or direct to your people.
Yeah. There's no middleman.
Yeah. It's cool. Who needs a middleman? You know what I mean?
Right. Bring it straight to the people, and the technology's there to be able to do it.
Straight to the people.
Because we love the people. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, this is cool, man. This has been super cool and rewarding.
Yeah, it has been, and I'm super glad you came down here, and we got to do this right after you guys got out of the studio. Thank you for letting me come down to the studio. We got a bunch of pictures for all these people, some really cool stuff for everybody. What's going on in you? What do you want to plug real quick before we wrap this up?
So all the tour dates, the most precise listing is like the SmiloTheGhost.com. Trying to get more people to the website, but also Smilo and the Ghost on Instagram. We just actually started a TikTok, which
You've been pumping out content, dude.
I've been really resisting it for so long.
I keep sending you dank memes, and you never respond to any of them.
I barely ever on there. Yeah, I saw that yesterday. I was like, Tony sent me like 65 videos. And
they're fire, dude. You're gonna love that shit.
I gotta catch up on them.
Just put LOL.
Yeah.
At the last one.
Right. That's all I want. Just a little bit of validation.
But
that you appreciate me and what I'm doing for you.
I'm going to look, I swear to God. But it's Smilo and the Ghost on everything. So the website, Smilo and the Ghost, TikTok, Instagram,
Spotify,
Facebook, and Spotify's huge too. We haven't pushed YouTube or Spotify nearly as much as Facebook, for example. So we're trying to get those monthly listeners up because that's important too. Like a lot of like trying to get on like a festival or something. They're like, well, how many monthly listeners do they have? And, meanwhile, we haven't pushed it very hard. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening and you're interested in what we do, check us out on Spotify.
That's right. Tune in to Spotify. Listen to us on Spotify too while you're at it.
Yeah, make it a double feature.
Yeah.
Smash that like and subscribe.
Smash the likes, smash the subscribes, share it. If you're feeling froggy, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Anybody that likes us and wants to keep supporting us, we have a Patreon now. I'm doing a primitive weekend coming up here, end of June. It's going to be ridiculous.
What is a primitive? I saw your post about what is it?
The primitive weekend is going to be me, hand tools. I'm bringing an axe, a knife, rope, matches, a tarp, hammock, sleeping bag,
Survivor.
no food, no water for 3 days and 2 nights.
Really?
Yeah,
Just you?
just me.
And this is like you're gonna like film a lot of the shit?
I'm gonna bring my camera with me. Yeah, I'm gonna build a structure out of the tarp and the rope and light a fire.
Dave's face right now, he's like, I don't fucking know.
I have one book that I'm gonna bring. There's a straw poll out there that people can vote and help me decide what book I want to bring. But mostly it's just gonna be me and Spirit going for a vision quest.
If we get some more Patreon members, I'm gonna do something too. But
That's right.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, if we get up to 10, Dave has to do the next challenge.
Yeah. So, just real quick,
Yeah,
is the plan to fast the entire time?
no
or is
food,
the-
no water.
I thought the plan was like you'd go out. What I was initially thinking from just now was that you would go out there with no food and water, but you would live off the land for 3 days.
Scavenge some. I mean, I could do that. I have the skills and ability to be able to do that.
But going into it as a fast
But I'm
scenario,
going in as a fast.
Well, that kind of simplifies it, right?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I feel
Well-
like finding food and water is its own like particular challenge, but like not having any and not looking for any, really brings like a more spiritual, a more ascetic, like practice to it. You know what I mean? No food and no water for 3 days is like a serious task. A lot of people have already messaged me and are like, dude, you got to bring water with you. You're going to fucking die out there. I promise I'm not going to die. I've been watching people go like 4 days on humblachas and sundances with no food and no water, and they're like out dancing in the fucking sun.
If he dies, we're still gonna keep the show going.
Okay.
So don't worry.
Yeah,
all
I'll
our
be okay.
fans out
And
there. He won't die though.
Celinda or Dave or somebody's going to come check up on me periodically. I will bring my cell phone just in case of emergencies, but I'm not going to use it at all. It's mostly just going to be me praying and meditating and hoping for some visions from 3 days with no food and no water. Maybe maybe God will talk to me. Maybe I'll see him.
Are you gonna do like public land or?
I have a couple places that are friends and family members that I'm considering, but I haven't really picked one place. I'm not going on public land. I'm not going to go down to Presque Isle, fucking hobo it up down there. I'm going to go to one of my friends' backyards, hopefully.
You're like, I'm actually going to the corner of 10th and State. I hear it's popping.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go out to some private property and just spend 3 days out in the woods.
You know what would be super interesting is this. I saw this guy on Rogan not that long ago. He does like the silver underbelly. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, soft white underbelly.
Yeah. I thought about like imagine like what you're doing for something else, but like you went to State Street, like local, like you went to State Street and you were gonna like live the weekend
Hobo style,
but just kind of like integrate with like the society that's happening down there, because there's a fucking society.
Oh yeah,
like
Perry Square has its own like hierarchy and pecking order for sure.
Yeah, but like who's got their ears to the streets? Who's down there like, fucking
in there with the people?
Yeah, like that would be interesting. Maybe that's something Dave could do.
Maybe that could be Dave's challenge.
Dave's like, I'm going to Perry Square.
Hobo style.
You're allowed to get boba tea. You can eat and drink, but it has.
We'll
to
give you
be,
like a budget of $20 that you have to trade and barter with, and try to get the cool. Try to upgrade your status down there.
Or he can panhandle.
Yeah,
and sky's the limit.
Right.
Like he could go to Oliver's for a 22-ounce ribeye, but he has to collect the money from people on the street.
That could be something. Dave's got to figure it out. That's a good idea.
I would do it. I'd be.
Oh, Dave, don't say this on the podcast, dude. This is going to be your challenge.
I'd come check up on you, man.
I'm gonna have to think about it.
Yeah,
I wasn't really expecting to do this primitive weekend. I never thought we'd get 5 Patreon people, but it happened like the same weekend that I said it. So
I'm not gonna agree to this one right off the top, because I've seen the magic you work online, and I feel like with you pushing this,
right.
I will be down on State Street or in Perry Square doing this.
Man.
So I'll have to think about it.
yeah, if we want to see Dave do something cool, Patreon, Everything at Once Studio, patreon.com/Everything at Once Studios. The links are down below.
Yeah, but soft white underbelly is cool.
That dude is super cool.
You've seen those videos?
Oh, they're kind of fucked.
He interviews the people down on like Skid Row.
Yeah.
That have done like crazy fucking shit.
Yeah, and it humanizes them, and you see past, like, oh, this person is obviously, was a child, and they have a story and it's super fucking interesting, and I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like Erie, I thought about it in the sense of like local. It's like somebody could totally be doing that locally, and it would be highly interesting.
It would be.
Like, because I'm always seeing guys down on State Street, like they're like yelling into traffic. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that motherfucker. And I'm like, dude, who is that story? Who is that guy? Where
How did he get here?
Like, what does he have to say?
Right.
And not to exploit these people, but just kind of like, hey, buddy, you want to talk for a little bit? I feel weird because maybe it would be exploited them in a while for in a way for entertainment.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we're using it for entertainment purposes, but hopefully we could use it for a positive thing to help.
Yeah, and you end up getting a meal or
humanize the population. That way people aren't just like, avoid eye contact with that guy. He looks like he's having a hard time down here.
That's just interesting.
It is. So that dude's doing really cool stuff.
Yeah,
I like his show. Yeah. Maybe an idea for the future.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Tyler, this has been great. We love you, man. We love all you people out there. You guys are the best. Peace.
Later, y'all.